Hello guys and welcome to the Aetherdrift Brawl Commanders review, where we look at the new legendary creatures coming to Arena for the first time, be it reprints that haven't been in Arena before or just new legendary creatures. We take a look at what we can build with them, and yeah, just gives you little suggestions, and then we'll probably see what we're going to be recording for the next month or so. Hopefully if I can get enough wildcards. If I'm not mistaken, comes out on the 13th, which should be Thursday if I'm not mistaken. Might be Tuesday. Don't actually remember, but here we are. Anyways, so as always, we'll get started with the ones I don't think are interesting or good enough, or just kind of like stuff we've seen before. So weirdly enough, there's 5 legendary creatures that are just straight up vanilla, and I don't see why you would ever run them as a commander. I don't even see why you would ever run them as part of your 99. I guess there could be a reason why you want a 2-mana 3/3 mono white that's kind of aggressive, or a 0/8 in blue for milling. It's because we have Phalanx or anything that deals damage with toughness that could be good, and 5-mana knights. Like these guys are like, they will be niche weird decks, but don't bother. And then the other one is Lingering Soul of Alakria. Mostly the saddle ability he has is just not all that powerful, so on your attacks outside you put a count on each of up to 2 target mounts and vehicles. It's a nice little ability, but I think it's a better part of the 99 in saddle vehicle decks than in as the commander itself. As we will see later on in this video, there is a new green-white saddle vehicle commander. So anyways, let's get started. This is no particular, well, it is in a particular order, being color and mana cost, I believe. There's no like, the best one is the first one, the best one is the last one. There's just no. All the ones after this one, I believe they can be played, and I'll give a little suggestions to how to go about them. So first of all, we have Basri, Tomorrow's Champion. So 1 mana 2/1. The bottom half, cycling, doesn't matter. Whenever you cycle this card, doesn't matter. There's going to be in your command zone. So the only part we care about is it's 1 mana 2/1. So that's like a Savannah Lion. And by tapping 1 and tapping itself, exert it, that means it doesn't untap. You create a 1/1 white cat token of lifelink. So what can we do here? Well, I think there's a few avenues. We have obviously the cat avenue, Arabo, things like that, since it's going to be making cats. Is there enough cat stuff to feed this deck? And if you're doing cat stuff, are you better off just having a Rabo as your commander? Maybe, but it's an interesting thing. You gotta have a cat sub theme and not be the main thing. Just have a few cat stuff. As you can see, Rabo itself makes tokens, so that leads us into a token deck. We can have Dollmaker Shop, in a sense, anything that comes into play. Draw cards. There's the Vampire, the 3 mana 2/3 Vampire, that also draws cards. Caretaker's Talent is freaking amazing, also works. So we have tokens, we have cats, and then I think the last one is a similar deck that we built recently, if you guys watched the video for Kithian, which is this white weenie with a little bit of like a taxation, death and taxes kind of sub-theme as well. Could also work as percent, just small creatures, run a few swords, run a few equipments. Basri hits early, when you can't hit anymore, you start make tokens with it, go wide, sort of stuff. It leans into more than one deck. So I like that about Basri, but I think if you go into any of those specific decks, it's better in the 99 as a commander. So I think if you do like a mix, like maybe if you do cats and tokens, or if you do tokens and like a white weenie, or if you do token or cats and white weenie kind of stuff, kind of death attacks. If you mix and match, it will be the better commander. Otherwise I would just run a different commander. But I mean, it's interesting enough. 1 mana 2/1, you can never really go wrong. Like, you're always gonna have this guy on turn 1, which makes Mox Ember really good. You should always run Mox Ember when your commander is 1 mana, because that's just 3 mana. Anyways, up next we have Mui Yanling Windrider. 4 mana 2/4. When he enters, he creates a 3/2 colors vehicle token with crew 1, which solid. Vehicles you can drive flying. Whenever one or more creature control with flying, they can to a player, draw a card. Which is a bit of a shame that you only draw 1 card, but anyways, I'm not getting to the merit of that. So what can we do here? Well, we obviously have vehicle. We can do a mono blue vehicles. There is not enough vehicles to do that, but you can have vehicles in your deck. So you have like new ones, Stop Fabricator and Possession Engine. So whenever you draw a second card, works with Move and Link. You create a token. Whenever he enters, you can control a creature upon control as long as you control it. So it's kind of a removal as well. So yeah, you can have vehicles. I don't think you'll be enough to run a mono vehicle deck, but you can have vehicles in your deck. What else are we doing? Well, we can have, since we're running vehicles, we can have other things that get value from artifacts. So Scythe, we're going to be making extra flyers. Flyers will draw a card from Mui Yanling, that works really well. Emporium also makes flyers, which happen to be artifacts. The artifacts happen to trigger Scythe or any other card that cares about you playing artifacts. The other thing, it lines itself in two, even though it's not a flyer itself, it's always linked to a flyer deck because it cares about flyer and dealing damage. So Cynet, the Jelly Drover. If April wins, and then also going to be drawing multiple cards a turn, at least 2 cards, well, the one for your turn and then one from the trigger. Horde, Mystic, the one that makes 8/8, Chasm Skulker, the fairies that get loyalty when you draw cards, things like that. I don't think it would be an extremely competitive deck, but I think it's an interesting enough deck. You know, you get to run artifact, vehicles, and flyers all in the same pile. I'm interested, not super eager, but interested enough. Up next, we have no vowels. We have no vowels. I speak Latin languages. Is that Latin languages? Yes. We like our vowels, so a word with no vowels does not sit well with me. Anyways, the Verbose Host is a 2-mana 0/4 with Start Your Engine. Start Your Engine is a new mechanic that basically starts at 0 speed. And then when a card with Start Your Engine comes into play, you go to up to 1 speed. And then every turn when you deal damage to your opponent during your turn, if they lose life, rather not deal damage, lose life, your speed goes up to 1, up to 4 is the max amount of speed. Usually when you hit max speed, there will be cards that will get you some kind of value. For example, this guy, you draw 2 cards instead of 1 whenever you draw a card. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to get max speed as soon as possible. The earliest we can get it is on turn 4. If we have one of there's some lands that have Start Your Engine, there's some 1-mana cards that have Start Your Engines. I don't think there's any blue ones if I'm not mistaken. So you would have to play like a colorless land to Start Your Engine on turn 1. So basically we're going to try to get Start Your Engines, we're going to try to get max speed by turn 5, basically is what we're going here. So we go like turn 1, one of these, actually we can do it on turn 4. So we go turn 1, one of the unblockable flying creatures. You play the Verbose turn 2, you Start Your Engine goes to 1, you deal damage, it goes to 2, and then you do 3 and 4. Easy enough. So we want unblockable, cheap creatures, flying, unblockable itself. Yeah, I don't think there's Island Walk for 1 mana. Probably there isn't, but then your opponent needs to have an island. Anyways, so we need 1-drops. Since we're dealing damage, we're going to have all these creatures that are tough to block. Well, we want your Bidon of Tarsus, your Kaitos, your Curiosities, your Enduring Curiosity, is it called? We could even have, if you want, we could have your Mu Yunling as well. So anything that when you deal damage, you draw cards, because you're going to draw 1 card. Oh wait, you're not. You're going to draw 2 cards, because you're basically going to have max speed very, very quickly. This guy also, 4 toughness, survives a lot of the red removal, worth noting. We're going to be drawing extra cards, so Kaito is going to be able to ult it. Sorry, no, Kaito is going to be able to work with the creatures, and then Teferi is going to be able to ult very quickly because you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards because of the Verbose. And other cards as well in the deck. Chasm Skull is going to get huge. We can even run like Sphinx Tutelage, Teferi's Tutelage, Mind Corrosion. I think there's a 4th one which is escaping my mind. Basically all these cards that when you draw a card, your opponent mills cards. So you could also have like this aggressive theme, but you can also have maybe a mill theme on top of that. Maybe you can just run... It's awkward because obviously with you want to hit 4 speed, so you need creatures. We can't really run like a mill control deck. Because Verbose itself is not gonna up the speed, so you need these small creatures, unblockable flyers, to get the full max speed. So you can run the tutelage package as kind of like a package and not as the main thing. But yeah, this one I'm very interested in. This is definitely gonna be the first ones I built. I think it's interesting enough, and as you guys saw the Kaito video, I actually really enjoyed that deck. So this will be similar enough to that deck, which makes my... Not gonna say that. Up next I have Gonti, 9 Minister. As you can see, I put my little tag here because I like Gonti. I really love all Gontis. Love Gonti, Lord of Luxury. There's also the Sultai Gonti. Love the Sultai Gonti. Love all the Gontis. So basically, when Gonti comes into play, it does nothing. Whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, they create a treasure token. Whenever a creature does commit damage to one of your opponents, you look at the top card of that player's library and you get to keep it and cast it for as long as you have it in exile with any mana as well, which is always great as the original Gonti. So what basically we're doing here, mono black controls to your opponent's cards. I think it just is the way. We also we want to kind of make sure we get the second trigger, so we need creatures that can deal damage to opponents. So we have like Changeling Outcast, again going to the unblockable. We can go to flyers, we can go to manas, we can go Death Touchers. So we can play these kind of like just already good creatures on like 2-3 on the 1 mana spot. and just get a bunch of cards. Like I'm thinking right now, the 3 mana red that makes red tokens. Name escaping my mind again. I'm really bad with card names. So that could work. Like there'll be multiple creatures. One of them will get through. You'll get a token. You'll get a trigger from Gonti. So yeah, we want these kind of creatures that can get through, but we want we don't want to be playing bad creatures. So like Changeling Outcast is also only if you want to go really deep on the second half of Gonti. We also want to focus on this first half where we get to cast treasure tokens without really caring about the second. So like Gonti, the other Gonti goes good with the new Gonti. Robbery steals cards, heist steal cards, any heist like Grave Expectation also works. So yeah, we're just stealing opponents' cards, we're playing creatures that can get through easily and also just good on their own. And then lastly, I guess we just round off the deck with ramp, removal, not much else to be said. Just steal your opponent's cards, kill all the creatures, play good value creatures, play with your opponent's deck. I like these kind of decks because then each game is going to be different because the cards you steal are just as good as your opponent's deck. So if maybe they're playing a tribal deck, it's going to be like, oh god, I need to play my own deck this game. But if they're playing like just say 4 color or 5 color good stuff, or maybe they're just playing some mid-range pile and you're just taking like some interesting different cards that you usually don't get to play, especially because you're mono black, you wouldn't be able to play like a Jeskai card, for example. So I like that. All games are going to be slightly different. Next we have the Speed Demon. 5 mana 5/5 with flying and trample will also start your engines, which is a bit awkward because like you don't want to start your engine at turn 5. You want, when you play this guy, you want your engine to be at max speed already. Your speed, not your engine. Whatever. I don't drive. I'm not good with engines. Okay, sorry. And the important part is at the beginning of your end step, you draw X card and looks X life, where X is your speed. So you want by turn 5 when you play the demon to be at 4 speed. So we have all these cheap cards that start your engine. So we have the 1 mana guy, I want to say there's 3 lands. There's this one that's 2 mana when you have max speed, but there's one that can give creatures haste that will start your engine. So we want to run like all the lands, all the 1 mana and 2 mana, maybe even a couple of the 3 mana start your engine cards, because when we play the Speed Demon, we want to be able to draw the cards already. Like we don't want to have to attack and then attack again and then maybe we have max engine. That would suck. If we happen to play the demon maybe with 3 speed, we have all these kind of protection, and the boots will be better than the armor, but the armor works for protection. It's also free to play on the same turn, because the thing is we need to survive until the end step, and maybe we need to survive for a little bit to get the final speeds, don't know how you would say it. So yeah, these protection spells, protection equipments are going to be a bit vital, but the boots and the cheaper boots, the 1 mana boots, could also help with the haste, which is something that might be necessary to get the final point of speed. Rest of the deck, well, you're going to have to mitigate all the damage you're going to be taking, because max speed 4, so obviously you can be able to draw a couple cards, but like you want to be drawing 4 cards every turn. You're going to be losing 4 life, so you need your Shieldrids to gain some life. You need your Unholy Annex, because this guy's a demon, to gain some life. And then other than that, you're going to be drawing cards, so Crawler will deal damage. Any other card that triggers from you drawing cards. I was going to say Bowmaster, but Bowmaster triggers on your opponent's drawing cards. So if your opponent's playing the Speed Demon, you need Bowmaster. But yeah, anything that triggers on you drawing cards is going to be great here. And if you want, since like the only theme of the deck is engine, so speed and drawing cards, you can run some little bit of the demon sub theme. You know, you run your Liliana Contract. I just really like Liliana's Contract. I used to play this card a lot in Penny Dreadful. So yeah, I just want to build a mono black speed demon deck. Speed demon deck. Speed demon. Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. Anyways, up next we have the only planeswalker of the set, because that's the recent change. Only 1 planeswalker per set, which I much prefer. Kind of sucks when you play the only planeswalker in draft, but against rather. But other than that, it's a good change. It was getting a bit overwhelming, the amount of planeswalkers we're getting. So Chun, at the beginning of a combating turn, you can choose 1 vehicle control and make it into a creature and give it haste, which is nice because we're gonna be playing a lot of vehicles in this deck. +2, sacrifice an artifact or discard a card to draw a card. The 0 creates a 3/2 vehicle, and the -7, whenever a vehicle control enters, this emblem deals 3 damage to any target. It's actually not that hard to get the emblem, since it's +2, so 3 turns, so you need 2 +2s, and then you can emblem already, so that's pretty powerful. But yeah, we're kind of running this mono red vehicle artifact deck, because vehicles are artifacts, but you know, there's only so many vehicles that are truly playable. Like we have the new one from our Lifecraft engine that lets you choose a creature type, and then it becomes a creature type, and lets also makes all the creatures of the chosen type usually going to be dwarfs or humans, because there's a lot of, like you can see the reckless crew, but there's some dwarfs that care about vehicles, there's some humans as well, but also your vehicles get bigger, so like it's a vehicle lord. The mech is removal in the vehicle form, same with the Sky Sovereign. Smuggler's Copter is just one of the more powerful vehicles, but it comes to a stage where you're like kind of pushing it, what kind of vehicles you're playing. So yeah, we kind of do need this artifact sub theme where we're just running some good artifact creatures, or creatures that make artifacts, like Pier or the Foundry that makes a bunch of artifacts, can upgrade up to a 4/4 creature. The rest of the deck, and anything in red that reads vehicle, like Speedway Fanatic or the Reckless Crew, is just good. You're just kind of putting all of them in there because there's only so many. We only had two sets that generally care about vehicles. Vehicles kind of became a normal thing where we're seeing multiple sets, but that generally care about vehicles. We had the Kaladesh set, and we have this one now. So I believe, maybe actually there's another one. I don't think so, but maybe I'm mistaken. But yeah, there's not that many cards that care about vehicles, so we're gonna probably play most of the cards. You go to Scryfall, you put in the Oracle text vehicle, and you choose the color red, and then you see what you get. Up next, we have Daretti, Rocketeer Engineer. So a 5-mana creature, which is very expensive. Its power is equal to the greatest mana among artifacts you control. So it could be, as you can see, we have a 9-mana there, so it could be a 9/5 for 5 mana, which would be solid. When it enters your attack, you can choose an artifact in your graveyard. You can sacrifice an artifact and return it to the battlefield. So we kind of want to put these expensive artifacts in a graveyard. I put Portal for X and Sundering Titans as examples because I think those are the two more powerful ones we can play. Portal for X is just insane, and Sundering Titans, since we're going to be mono red, we'll probably take a couple lands from the opponent, up to 5, depending how many colors they're playing. We want artifacts to sack, so I call a Wellspring, or any like cheap artifact that just replaces itself. It just would be nice to sack. Scrap Trawler will get some value from the artifact you sack. You can even sack the Scrap Trawler itself to bring something else back. But we need to make sure we got all these expensive stuff in the graveyard, so we have all the looting effect. Fear of missing out works in both ways, because not only going to be looting stuff to help the ready, but you're going to very easily get Delirium, because artifact creature, 1 fetch land, 1 instant. Cool, you already have Delirium, you're getting an extra attack every turn. Faithless Rune is one of the more powerful looting effects to help the ready. And then to round off the deck, well, Mystic Forge is a very powerful card. Any of these artifact, I was gonna say themed. Themes on the word. I'm really struggling, man. It's Sunday. But yeah, any of these cards that have artifact decks you're gonna run. You could run Karn as well, even though you don't have a sideboard, but it can maybe hurt your opponents. Artifacts, you can also have the other Karn, which makes construct tokens, that's so powerful. I really like the idea of playing Overcooked, since we're going to be having multiple stuff entering the battlefield, like Daretti comes in, sacks something, brings something else in. We probably get a bunch of food fights, which we can use to deal a lot of damage to creatures and kill them. But yeah, this is interesting. This is a good deck. I like this deck. This is a big artifact deck in mono red. I like it. Next we have Hazoret Godseeker, kind of the new mono red aggressive deck that we can try. As you can see, I put in my little symbol because I like it. I'm probably gonna build this one very early. 5/3 for 2 mana. Like what? Indestructible haste? What? But it can't attack unless you have max speed. Again, we're hoping to get max speed in this deck by turn 4. We can't do it earlier than that because we can play the land. I get speed on turn 1, but then we're not attacking on turn 1. Attack on 2, attack on 3, attack on 4, speed 4. Other than that, like the rest of the ability target creature power 2 less can't be blocked this turn. That can work to help you get the speed, since whilst you can't attack, you can still activate the abilities. Rest of the deck, we're running all the 1 mana red creatures that are good. All of them in the deck. Monster Swift Spear, Ragavan, Kellen, Hired Claw, Gitu Lava Runner. That's not that great, but I like Gitu Lava Runner. Soulscar Mage, Fanatical Firebrand. There's other ones I can't think right now, but all of them are gonna be in the deck because you wanna play Hazard on 2 and already deal damage because you played a turn 1. You wanna make sure you have a turn 1 creature. You have to have it because you wanna get the max speed as soon as possible. Since we're gonna be doing a lot of damage, I mean any of 3 any haste creatures also helps, because you're gonna, in case like your turn 1 dies, you play the house already, you need to attack, you need haste creature, you're gonna be dealing damage, you're gonna make treasures, that also helps. Hazard is freaking huge. You get the Ferocious from Team of Battle Rage and Bolt Band. These are 2 powerful cards that I wanted to know. There's not that many cards that get about power 4 greater that we want to run. There's like the there's a Banefire effect that you can pay 1 and X. It deals X damage to any target, but if you have Ferocious having a creature power 4 greater, it already deals 2. So that one is interesting. I don't know if it's good enough, but it's interesting enough. But yeah, these 2 guys, since we're gonna have a big creature for so cheap, these guys become very, very powerful. And then just run off the deck with Burn. Like it's you're gonna curve out at like 3. You might have like 1 or 2 4 drops. There's gonna be a low curve deck, an insane amount of 1s, good amount of 2s, a few 3s, a couple of 4s. Call it a deck. Mono red aggro. We love it. Next we have Ovia, Automech Artisan. 4 mana 1/2. Each creature that's attacking one of your opponent has trample. Hey, you may put a creature or a card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put an artifact onto the battlefield this way, you put 2 counters on it. So we're gonna just be we needed to have haste, because a 1/2 for 4 dies to a fart. And we do not want to be spending 4 mana to just have it die. So we obviously want to ramp into it. So we go like turn 1 ramp, play this guy on 3, maybe turn 4 we already do it. The other option is obviously turn 1 ramp, turn 2 the boots, turn 4, turn 3 Ovia plus a protection, an option. But yeah, what kind of creature do you want to put in? Well, Vorinclex will be one of the more powerful, just gonna ramp you so much. Gauntlet's gonna let you put any other creature you have in hand, just like slam your hand. You're gonna basically be playing, the deck is gonna be cheap ramp, huge creatures, a lot of huge creatures, or at least good ETB creatures. So maybe run some 5s and 6, which you can cast as the game goes on, and you don't get to activate Ovia. But you also, if you get to activate Ovia, they're very good to put in. We have a few artifact creatures that would be nice to put in. I even mentioned a vehicle, since he cares about vehicle as well. You can put a vehicle. But yeah, these guys would, like, this would come in as a 9/12, this would come in as an 8/8 Death Touch Lifelinker, and you can cast these guys. Sundering Titan works really well since we're mono green. Sky Sovereign is a removal. It's nice, so you can also play the instant speed with Ovia. Other than that, well, we have big ramp, Gwenna. I can add 2 mana, but you can also, since we're going to be playing huge creatures off of ramp itself or Ovia, we would be making the Gwenna untap and generate extra mana. Sylvan Tutor will just make sure we have the big creature for when we get Ovia into play and ready to activate. Usually, I guess, depending how our hand looks, Sylvan Tutor will be searching for Gauta so we can dump our whole hand for just 1 mana. But yeah, it's nothing foreign to what green usually does, just ramping into big stuff, but maybe trying to cheat them into play sounds really, really powerful. Up next, now into multicolor, Mendicant Core, the Guidelight. So it's a robot, which is pretty interesting. 2 mana, X and 3, its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control, so you're kind of running a bunch of cheap artifacts to make this guy huge. He has started your engines. Whenever you cast an artifact and you have max speed, you can pay 1 and copy it. So again, all these max speed decks, you just want to get max speed as soon as possible. So again, we're highlighting Nesting Bot, which is like this card itself is kind of like, sure, it's whatever, it's nothing to write home about, but just being a 1 mana, start your engine. So by turn 1 player, go to 1, turn 2 attack, go to 2, by turn 4 you have max speed. It just sounds really, really powerful. This is another one of the lands I mentioned that has start your engines. It gives creatures haste if you have it, which doesn't really matter. We really care that you just will start our engines on turn 1. So we kind of just want to, 2 things we want to do here. We want to play artifacts that are good enough that we want to copy, but we also want to run a bunch of cheap artifacts so this guy can be huge. Sai is going to make extra artifacts, so does the Synthesizer. Synthesizer is also really powerful to copy as well. And other powerful cards to copy will be Kappa. Just make a bunch of unblockable creatures, and they can play them for really cheap as well, which is really good. Because obviously, like, you need to pay an extra mana to copy, but if you can tap all my other artifacts and play the Kappa for like 2 mana, it won't be hard to copy it. Same with Thought Monitor, you can play it for 1, 2, 3 mana. Comes to play, you pay 1 extra mana, now you're drawing 4 cards and have 2/2 flyers. Really powerful. And then we just did some cheap early artifact to make sure we hit the speed early. So we play these guys on turn 1, this on turn 2, and it also works. and they're just also good cards. So, you know, because the Scarab will protect the Mendicant Core, will deal damage, will help us push through damage as making your glitches unblockable. So yeah, I'm actually really interested about this deck as well. Up next, Winter. I really loved the Jund Winter. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. So Winter Curse Rider, 2 mana, 3/2, has ward, pay 2 life. It hurts a little bit, but since it's like Dimir, like the pay 2 life isn't really not that bad of a ward. Like if it was extra mana, that would be a problem, but pay 2 life is not that bad. Unless it was like a red deck, red-green, maybe green-white, some kind of aggressive deck. We can try to make it aggressive, but we can only do so much. So artifacts control also have this pay 2 life, but they usually will kill the Winter first. Anyway, Exhaust. It can only be activated once, but if the Winter leaves the battlefield by dying, blinking, or anything else, you get to activate it again. So you pay 4 mana, exile X artifact cards from your graveyard, and then each other non-effect creature gets -X until end of turn. So you get to clean the board. So we want to make sure we have enough artifact fodder in the graveyard. So we have the 2 mana mill card enchantment that mills 3 cards every turn. Emery mills, Mesmeric Orb also mills. Yeah, like I mean that's the main thing. Like it's an artifact aggressive. You can only go so aggressive in blue-black. I guess we're missing the white, which would be the more aggressive artifact color. But yeah, we want to make sure we have enough mill cards, and the rest of the deck we just care about artifacts. Radiant Lotus is going to help us put a bunch of the new cards. So you sacrifice 1 or more artifacts, you generate 3 mana per artifact to sack. Not only is it going to ramp us a lot, you're going to have all these cheap artifacts to sack, but that's also going to feed into the Winter by having a bunch of artifacts in the graveyard. Burnish Heart, also an artifact. An artifact that can put itself in the graveyard, like Chromatic Star, or Burnish Heart, Radiant Lotus. Anything like that, it just becomes better Winter, because we want self-feeding artifact. We don't want to just mill ourselves. If we have self-feeding, self-sacrificing artifacts, that works really well. But Demon's going to draw us a card. Recomposing Bay works in 2 ways. Not only going to be upgrading our artifacts like a birthing pod, but also feeding the Winter. And then since we're self-milling a lot, maybe even milling the opponent a bit, like the Mesmeric Orb, we have like a reanimation effect. We have Delve to use the non-artifact cards, because we basically want to leave the artifact cards for the Winter. For Winter, not the Winter. And then the rest we kind of want to make, we don't want to let it go to waste. So yeah. Next we have For Fortune, the end boss. So a 4 mana Rakdos 4/5. Start your engines again at 4 mana. So we're going to play the cheap cards to start our engines. We don't want to be waiting that long to start our engines. When it attacks, it deals 1 damage to your opponent, which is an interesting way to make sure our speed goes up. And then if you have max speed, any source that will deal damage to an opponent they control, it deals 1 extra damage, which is nice. It's not insane. It doesn't double it, but 1 extra damage can go a long way. So again, cheap start your engines. We have Burnout Bastronaut, 1 mana, 1/1 of menace. That has double strike when you have max speed, and have the Gaskettler 2 mana, 1/1 with max speed that lets you sacrifice a creature or vehicle to draw a card. So we just want max speed. By the time we play For Fortune, we want to have max speed already. We don't want to be, although if we have 3, the For Fortune will let us get the max speed, because we'll attack, deal 1 damage. Now we have max speed. This is life. Everything deals extra damage. Since we're dealing 1 extra damage, it would be nice to deal even more. So the Warfare will deal +1 on top of the 1 of the For Fortune, called D stack, and then we have Torben to +2 that. So with these 3, for example, in play, there'll be +4 damage. Then we want easy damage, like For Fortune attack is an easy damage, but like Porphyros creatures come into play. Same with Impact Tremors. Creatures that deal damage when they attack are also nice. I guess burn spells can also work. Trigger all those gutter snipe effects, also quite nice. Things like that. And then the rest of the deck, I mean, we're Rakdos aggressive. We maybe want to lean more towards the red and the black for the creatures and the damage because of like Torben, Mechanized Warfare, but we don't have to, but it's a nice little thing. Alicia is very powerful since we're going to be attacking a lot. We can kind of chump attack to get the attack trigger, get the speed, and then we bring it back with Alicia. Hell Rider is just going to deal 3 damage. Like, these are separate triggers, so each Hell Rider trigger will be +1 damage, so like it'll be 2 damage per Hell Rider trigger, so that's very, very powerful. I'm also very interested in this deck, so we're going to be on the first few I build. Next I have Redshift Rocketeer Chief. It's a 2 mana 2/3 with vigilance. It adds X mana of any one color. X is Redshift's power, so you're gonna be adding 2 mana. But this mana can only be used for activated abilities. But hey, it has activated ability itself. You can pay 12 mana and put any number of permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. How are we paying this? It's actually 10 mana. It says 12, but like the Redshift adds 2 mana itself, so it's already cheaper. We have ways to make the Redshift's power bigger permanently, which will help how much mana it will add. Glass of the Guild pack, make all multicolor creatures bigger. Sorry, I'm dying. Some of Domri, and these are like, we will run, as you can see, enough multicolor creatures, but this is not a bad card. You can even lean further into the multicolor theme. Domri is just a good card, makes your creature unblockable, even can be used as a removal spell, and makes the Redshift bigger. We have other cards that care about activated abilities, so Agatha makes up activated abilities X cheaper, where X is its power, so kind of works similarly to Redshift's first ability. So if we make these two bigger, like let's say we have Glass of the Guild pack, Agatha, and Redshift, so this will make 3 mana from here, -2 from here, so that's already 5 from the 12, so it's only now 7 mana. It's like only 7 mana, yeah, but it's a lot closer. Raga Draga, Gorgut's boss, also will make the Redshift +2/+2 bigger, and whenever you can also attack with Redshift, has vigilance, would untap it, it doesn't matter, unless you I guess you can activate it at instant speed. Oh, that's actually really powerful. You have Raga Draga in play, you attack Redshift for 4, triggered to untap it, you tap it, it untaps, you tap it again, that's already 8 mana from the 12 that you need. And whenever you cast a spell, if you have at least 7 mana, and a caster, you can untap a creature and get ++7/+7. So if you ever play a huge creature, this guy will already be 11 mana just on its own, which is very powerful. Rest of the deck, well, other ways to make the Redshift bigger, Gearhulk, so we can have this in like +1/+1 counter sub theme, and then we kind of also want some big stuff to put into play, but also we don't want to go too big, but also big enough. So we're going to have some like 7-8 mana cards, but we want to have too many, because even though this guy ramps, he ramps for activated abilities such as the one from Vorinclex and Enzrag, which usually they're very expensive, like 7 mana for Enzrag, 8 mana for Vorinclex. But with a Redshift, that's already -2 on this mana, just from Redshift being in play, well, from activating. But also if you make it bigger, this is going to be super cheap. So yeah, this is a red-green activated abilities deck. Like, yeah, you will look towards having big stuff that don't have activated abilities for the exhaust ability on Redshift, but I'm more interested in being like a activated ability deck. Next we have Caradora. This one, as I mentioned earlier, that's the better mount vehicle commander. So the Heart of Alakra is a 4 mana 4/2. When it comes into play, you can search it for a mount vehicle card and put it into your hand. If one or more +1/+1 will be put on a creature vehicle you control, you put that many +1/+1 counters on it instead. So he has the the vehicle and mount theme, but he also has the Hardened Scales ability built into it. So yeah, there's some good mounts. There's this new Guardian Sun Mare, which, for you guys that don't know, if attacks all Sarah, you can search it for a non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less and put it onto the battlefield, which is extremely powerful. Extremely. It's a non-land. It's not even a creature. It's not even a mount. Not even a vehicle. Like any non-land in your deck. We can even search for like a Hardness Scales, a Talon that puts counter, a Tumblewag that puts counters as well, and happens to be a Saddle. So yeah, we have this. These are like very powerful mounts. These are very powerful vehicles. There's a few more that you obviously, the Smuggler's Copter we mentioned earlier for the other deck for Moonly and Ling. But we're also focusing on the second part, so anything that adds extra counters, anything that gets value from our creatures being bigger than usual, so they're going to get flying, and we're going to be drawing cards as well. It's a pretty straightforward deck. Like, it's mount vehicles, which you don't really need to go that deep. Like, you can run only the good ones. Like, this one makes tokens, so that's nice. This one deals damage. Smuggler Copter is a powerful card. Sunmare is really powerful. Tumblewag puts the counter, which works with the second half of Caradora. So yeah, you don't need to go heavy on it. Just run a few mounts and vehicles just to make sure you get an extra. You draw a card basically every time you play Caradora. Just play the good ones, and then lean heavily on the counter theme. Anything that adds extra counters, anything that gets value from counters, anything that gets value from being bigger. Like, you don't need to go heavy on mount vehicles. You can, but I don't think there is enough justification for it. Next we have Ketramuse, the new Dawn, 3 mana 4/4 God with Menace, Lifelink, and Indestructible. It can't attack or block unless there's 7 more cards in exile. Worth noting, it doesn't specify your exile or in a single player's exile. So if you have 4 in yours and 3 in your opponent's, that's good enough. Whenever more cards are put into exile from graveyards and on the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. How can we get cards from the battlefield into exile or from our graveyards and make sure? So Ketramus has enough cards to be able to attack. The Land of the Void is good and weird because you will get the cards for Ketramus to be able to attack, but you wouldn't be drawing cards because cards wouldn't be put into exile from the graveyard or battlefield. They go straight from, like, I cast a spell, it goes straight unless we're killing straight to exile, unless we're killing a creature, then yes. Rest in Peace, when it comes into play, it would trigger the Ketramus, but then from then onwards, anything that's cast wouldn't go into the graveyard, then exile, go straight to graveyard. But still, these cards are good to make sure we have the 7 cards. What other ways we can get the cards from the graveyard? Empty the pit, so any delve effect works, any collect evidence, flashback. I'm trying to think, there's no, yeah, those will be like the main ones I can think of. Agatha's Cauldron, Ghost Vacuum, any of these like Relic of Progenitors, any cards that like single use, not single use, like activate the ability of exiling something that would trigger the Ketramus, especially if I have multiples, because it triggers, it doesn't say it triggers once each turn, but whenever one or more cards put into exile. So I activate Agatha's Cauldron, I get 1 card. I activate my Relic of Progenitors targeting myself, I get 1 card. So like, yeah, if there's separate instances, you'll be drawing a card for each one of them. We want to make sure we have enough cards in the graveyard to be exiling, so any of the milling effects like a Mesmeric Orb or Out of the Brood works really, really well. And then lastly, any exile removal. So obviously it highlights Sword of the Plowshares because it's just a good card that we'll be running anyway, but you can even run like Path to Exile, which I don't recommend, but it's an exile removal. Same with Abstruse Appropriation. So yeah, this is just leans very heavily on exile everything. You don't want to run remove that says destroy target creature. You want to run remove that says exile target creature, exile target planeswalker, exile target enchantment, exile target non-land permanent. Anything that says exile goes into the stack. Anything that helps remove cards from your graveyard, like Delve, also goes into the deck. And you need a bit of self-mill, so or even milling your opponent, so you have enough food for the Ketramus. And yeah, it's an interesting deck. This one is also going to be in my top 5 decks I built first. Next we have Zahul Glorious Past, 2 mana 3/2 with Sarjo Engines. Again, I'm not even going to guess Guzglers here again for 2 reasons. It has you can sacrifice on a creature level 1, you can activate it once each turn, and whenever you if you have max speed, whenever non-token creature control dies, you create a 2/2 zombie that's tapped. So what do we want? We want to have max speed, so we're running a few cheap creatures to make sure we can attack, but then from there onwards we want to be able to have fodder to sack and get value. So tokens work. 9 Lives Familiar is a new one that I really like. 9 Lives Familiar, I don't think it's that great because it doesn't come into play immediately, but it's still very powerful. We want to get value from creatures entering and dying because Zahur is going to be making creatures come into play, but also sacrificing them. So Crew Celebrant, a Wayward Servant. You can even run like the God, what's the card from Modern Horizons? MH3, the 1/2 that gets energy when a creature comes into play. You also gain a life. I can't remember the name right now. I can see the art, but I can't see the name. Anyways, that one also works, gains you life. During this, it's going to be triggering from the token creation, which you can do during your turn and your opponent's turn, because they can activate once each turn, not turn cycle. We want other sacrifice synergies, so Warren Soul Trader will be able to sacrifice by itself, generate mana, so then that will make the tokens. You can sacrifice the tokens to get extra mana and play stuff. Black Market, since we're going to be sacrificing a bunch of things that generate extra mana, same with the Altar. And just having like extra sacrifice enablers, so we don't need the Zahur to be in play. Obviously with Zahur would be better because we're going to be generating 2/2s, but since Zahur is really good, opponents are probably going to be killing it a lot, so we need redundant sacrifice engines. That's the word, it's not enablers, engines. So we have Soul Trader, Altar, there's a few other ones I can think of. Anyways, up next we have Captain Howler, Sea Scourge, 4 mana 5/4 Shark Pirate, which is already interesting on its own. Look at the size of them freaking hands, lad. Anyway, has Ward 2 mana and pay 2 life, so like it's a double ward, which is quite nice. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards, that creature gets +2/+0 with 10 of 10 for each card discarded this way. And whenever creature deals command damage to a player, whenever that creature deals command damage to a player, you draw a card. So if you do separate instances of discarding, you can target multiple creatures. That's already nice. So then you'll be drawing multiple cards. It gets +2/+2 for each card you discard. So if you're discarding a lot in one go, that's a big boost to your creature. So like Mako, for example, is already getting huge from your discarding card usually. But if you can maybe like discard 3 cards in your turn, that's +6/+0 plus the 3 counters, so that's like +6 +9 +3 on the Mako, plus whatever else he has already gotten from before. Relay gets also value from you discarding cards. Whenever you discard one more cards for the first time you turn, you draw that many cards. So you're gonna be discarding a bunch of cards in one go. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Discard a bunch of cards in one go, make a creature huge, redraw those cards, things like that. Discard enablers, Ember Grace discards your whole hand, Chandra discards your whole hand as well, and draws that many cards is also important because you don't want to just discard and have nothing left. Second last, we have things getting value from drawing extra cards. So Iron Crag's gonna be killing creatures, Omniscience is gonna be getting huge. You can have the fairies that we mentioned earlier, Chasm Skulker also goes into here. And then lastly, I guess since we're going to be discarding a bunch of cards, you can do a little bit of a delirium value. Getting an extra attack, which is very, very important on... sorry, my brain is lagging here. On like getting one huge creature, being able to attack twice with a huge creature is very nice. Scarlet is going to be... So this, not only the discard engine, but also gets value from you having delirium, but also can make tokens, which if you can make tokens... You can then bump those tokens, bump multiple different tokens as well, which will help you push the damage that otherwise they could maybe easily chump, unless you have some kind of evasion like flying or unblockable. Yeah, one of those two. But anyways, I think there's enough cycling. We have had a couple of cycling cards printed before. In, God, what was it the set called? With the one with Sunflare, is it Ikoria? Might be Ikoria, I think it's Ikoria, yeah. So Ikoria has already like a cycling set that will give us other cycling cards. We also got a few of the... It's not Hour of Devastation, the one before that one also had the cycling thing. So, you know, there's other cycling... Amonkhet, they also had cycling. So, you know, we have quite a few cycling sets already in Arena. With a third one, this deck will have enough fodder to make an interesting deck. Achik, sorry, bless you. Emerald Radiant. It's a 6-mana 3/3, which is when it enters, you create a 1/1 green sack token for each artifact and or creature card in your graveyard. Self-mill. Whenever another stage control dies, you put a counter on the Achik, and your opponents lose 1 life. We wanna have a bunch of creatures and artifacts in our graveyard, so self-mill, and we wanna have a sacrifice engine so we can sack these insects, make the Achik huge, and make your opponent lose a lot of lives. A lot of life. Overlord, Ripples, these are just very good mill effects, very cheap as well, which by the time we play the Achik, we're gonna have a huge graveyard. Soul Trader is really good sacrifice engine. I was gonna say enabler again. Same with Altered, is not only gonna be able to sacrifice and dealing about a bunch of damage, make the Achik huge, but also gonna generate a lot of mana for us as well, which we can then use to do other silly stuff. We also can have a little bit of insects of theme. There's not that many cards with insect in the text, as in there's actually matter, not just, oh, I make an insect, but like something that actually matters. So like the Swarm Weaver makes your insects bigger, and the Fumulus, whenever you attack with an insect, opponent is going to lose a life. Whenever you play sacrifice a non-token creature, it creates an insect. So with like the sacrifice things, we can sacrifice other stuff to make more insects, then we can sacrifice the insects to make the Achik deal more damage. We're self-milling, so like Head Shredder is going to help. We can have Lumra to get extra lands into play, since we're already going to be milling anyway, and Achik only cares about the creatures and artifacts. The lands that they go to waste, so we kind of want to have a way to get value, so like you can have Crucible of Worlds, Lumra, Head Shredder to kind of get the lands from there. You can maybe have some Delirium stuff to get value from the incident source you get there, things like that. And then Sir Conrad's going to be dealing a lot of damage to your opponent, which goes in theme with Achik dealing a lot of damage by us sacking. Yeah, by the time we play the Achik, we're kind of hoping to kill them by the next turn, or even the same turn by sacking stuff, because hopefully we'll have put pressure on them before as well. Up next we have Claudine the Triumph Caster. 2 mana 2/3, mountain vehicles you control have haste. Whenever mountain you control enters, it becomes set until end of turn. And the same with vehicles. So basically it's a 2/3 that basically lets all the vehicles and mounts you play after it attack on the same turn. Obviously then later you have to saddle or crew it, but for the first time it just can attack. Again, Guardian Sunmass, the new mount, is very powerful. I also highlighted the Salvation Engine, which is really powerful vehicle. Sorry, it's Sunday, lads. But the thing is, he has a crew 6, which is usually extremely expensive, but if it comes into play, he already can attack, makes up for the expensive crew that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. And also when it attacks, you return an artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is also very powerful because you're gonna have other vehicles that have died earlier. We have other cards that care about vehicles. You can run a few that care about mounts, but I think the vehicle, going hard on the vehicle and the mount, like have some mounts, but focus harder on the, like have the good mounts. Guardian Sunman, there's the 6 mana one that creates 2 copies of a creature. That one is also very powerful. Like they have the good mounts, which is not going to be many, because again, 2 sets of mounts, but focus heavy on the vehicles. We also just like any vehicle that otherwise you'd have a hard time crewing, like any with 3, 4, maybe 5 crew, they become very good because with Colodin they just get to attack. But also we don't want to go too expensive. We don't want to be running like 8 mana vehicles, which we won't be able to cast, because again our command is only 2 mana. We kind of want to go semi-aggressive, so like curve out at 5. Like these 3, they could be your top end, and that's it. For example, you don't have to go higher than that. Other than that, any other card that cares about vehicles and mounts, the Bulwark Ox sorry, can protect your creatures that are being saddled. The Peace Walker Colossus can make your vehicles attack, otherwise it wouldn't be able to again if they are too expensive for the crew. We have the Colodin to help the first time they came to play, then the Colossus later on. But yeah, it's a red-white vehicles with a little bit of mounting on it. Next we have Sitaverma, Mask Racer. I'm always scared about blue-greens because I'm always scared they're going to fall into the haha, I ramp, haha, I play big stuff, haha, I draw extra cards kind of idea. But this one doesn't do that, which I'm very excited about. So it's a 2 mana 3/3 with exhaust. You play double green and blue and X. You put X counters on X +1/+1 counters on Sita, and then you can have all your creatures' base toughness and power become equal to Sita's power until end of turn. You can pay 3 mana to make all your creatures into 2/2s, well 2 power creatures, well 2/2s actually. But if you can make Sita bigger, and you can activate this ability for a lot. You can only activate it once, but obviously Sita dies, you can activate it again. But yeah, by the time we activate it, we want it to be huge. So we have Zimon, Bristly Build, they put counters on Sita. So not only the counters from the activability itself, because this will be very expensive. So if we can play just 3 and then Sita is already like a 6 power creature, that'll be great. I don't want to have to pay 3 and 6 to put 6 counters on it. Or 3 and 4, so 7 mana to put 4 counters, so then I can make my creature 6 power. The other part is obviously we're putting counters. I think the counter theme is very interesting. So Branch Evolution, Kami, anything that makes the counters double. So we saw hardness scales earlier as well. We can have doubling season, although doubling season is a bit expensive, so I'm not a big fan of it. And then we want to get value from our creatures having +1/+1 counters on them. So Rishkar will make our creature add mana, which in turn will let the Sita activation ability be cheaper since or be activated for more since our creature will be able to tap for it. Herald will make all these huge creatures that we just talked about, or Sita herself, be able to attack whilst being unblockable. And then there's 2 other things. Obviously the Biomancer will make this ability 2 cheaper, so you can pay 3 mana to put 2 counters, so that's already nice. But the Agathos's Cauldron, if Sita dies, you put it under the Agathos's Cauldron. It's very dangerous, because if they remove the Cauldron, your Sita is permanently gone for the rest of the game. Because you can only put it back in the command zone if it's changing zones. So with Cauldron exiled from your graveyard, you have a choice. Hey, do you want to put it back in command zone? You say no, I want to keep it in exile under the Cauldron. Cauldron gets removed. Sita stays in exile. It doesn't change zone again. Yeah, it's under the Cauldron, but being under the Cauldron is still exile. So you don't get a chance to get it back. So it's dangerous. But if you do that, you can make all your creatures have the Sita ability, which otherwise would be you wouldn't be able to activate more than once. Otherwise, unless Sita died, but now all your creatures have it, and you can be activating one of them each turn and just pumping all your creatures and attacking for a bunch. So this is a dangerous thing, but I think it could be interesting enough. But yeah, as you can see, we have a few other creatures already here that has activated ability, so maybe it's not that dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous if you put the Sita underneath. Maybe it's not, but it's not that big of a crazy shout. Next we have Sabsunen, Luxa Embodied, 6 mana, 5 mana, 6/6 God, reach, trample, indestructible. You can't attack block unless you have as it has an even number of counters in it, 0 being even. At the beginning of your first main phase, you put a counter in it, then if it has an odd number of counters in it, you draw 2 cards. So you play it, you put a counter in it, and you draw 2 cards. That seems very powerful. Interesting idea. If you have something like hardness scales, this guy would always be able to attack, because he's going to be putting 1 counter. Whenever mine, he's going to put 2 counters. Starts on 0, puts 2 counters, he can attack, puts 2 counters, he can attack, puts 2 counters, he can attack. It's never putting an odd number of counters, which can kind of suck, because then you're never drawing 2 cards, but it's something worth considering. Other ways to put counters as well, since we're also running, I'm struggling. So you just want to make sure like you have control of when you can draw and attack. You have other things that put counters on creatures. So I guess beginning of main phase, I'm gonna put a counter on it, and now I'm not gonna be able to attack, but I want to attack to kill a planeswalker. I have other abilities to put a counter on it first and make sure it has an even amount. So you kind of want to be the decider of your own fate, whether Sab can attack or not, or whether you're gonna be drawing cards in case you need to find a specific removal, counter spell, or whatever. So yeah, I think having these cards that let you put the counters when you want is very, very good. The rest of the deck is kind of leaning to 2 main ideas, which is the +1/+1 counters and the extra card draw. Great Worm is just going to make your creatures huge. Brawl is going to double the amount of, just going to put a bunch of counters in your creatures and come into play, doubling their power. Kraken is going to be drawing a bunch of cards. You're going to be drawing a bunch of cards, putting a bunch of counters, and making tokens. These two work in both sides. They put counters, they care about counters, but they also care about you drawing cards, so they're very, very powerful in this specific Sub-Sudden deck. And then 2 other things, Hedon's Climb, I think it's just a very powerful. The black backside just doubles your creature's power and gives it flying. Your Sub-Sudden is already going to be huge, so it's going to be huger. And then Simic Ascendant is a very quick way to win. It's an alternative win con that I think can work really, really well in this deck. I like it, you know. I'm really happy that both Simic commanders are not just ramp and draw cards. They have something else going on about them, which is just refreshing. Next, now we're into the 3 colors. We have Samut, the driving force, 6 mana, Naya commander, 4/5, first strike, vigilance, haste, has start your engines, but again, 6 mana, start your engines very late. We're going to be doing it earlier. Other creature gets +X+O, where X is your speed, and non-creature spells you cast cost X to cast. Cost X less to cast, where X is your speed. Start your engines early with aggressive creatures, and also then we wanna be going wide, because yeah, getting +X+O is very powerful, but you have like a couple creatures that can maybe chomp or kill those couple creatures and then you're fine. But if you have a bunch of tokens, that's very good. And wait, non-creature spell cost X less to cast? What about these X costed token creation things? Imagine we're like speed 4, Song of Totentan, I don't know how to say it. The song card. For 1 mana, you make 4 tokens that are actually 5/1s with haste. Attack for 20. Just on this 1 card alone for 1 mana. This for 3 mana, you can make a bunch of 1/1s with. You can even make more because you're gonna be tapping the other tokens. So you're like, ODX, like Secure the Waste as well. There's probably other ones that I can't think of, but any of the X costed token generators, very, very good. Enduring Vitality, make our tokens act extra mana as well. Since we're I think the token idea is the best one to go for. Perforals, we're going to be dealing damage from the tokens coming into play. And then these guys get value from the creatures having higher power, greater power than they usually have. Kutsu is going to be drawing extra cards, and this guy's going to be making extra tokens, which in turn is going to trigger this guy, which in turn is going to be a 1 mana 5/1 rather. So yeah, Samut is very interesting. I want to play Samut. I probably should have put a Dead Z sealed, but I forgot. Anyways, next, Loot the Pathfinder. He's back. He's freaking back. Well, I think we now have 3 loots on Arena. I want to make a loot week, and I want to make a Callan week where I record. I just removed the thing from my microphone. Where I record, like, for the loot will be only 3 videos, but for Callan will be, I think there are 5 Callans, so be each day of the week I'm gonna post a Callan video. I need to build all the decks, but that's definitely something I'm being looking for. Anyways, loot. 5 mana, 2/4, double strike, vigilance, haste. Exhaust, so these abilities can only be activated once, unless loot gets blinked. unless loot gets blinked. Anyways, the first one adds 3 mana by paying 1 mana, so that's 2 extra mana. That one draws 3, that one deals 3 damage. So it's extremely powerful, but the issue is, oh no, I activated once, now I can't activate this ability again. Oh wait, you have Displacer Kitten, add 2 mana, play a 1 mana spell, Kitten blinks the loot, and then you go off again, you add more mana, you draw cards, or you do whatever. So the idea, I think this deck is just going to line itself to be this combo of Displacer Kitten and Loot Pathfinder. We put the Agatha Soul's Cauldron here again, so we can put this ability into other creatures, since we put the loot underneath. Again, very dangerous, but it's worth it. We have other blink effects, because since it has haste, just blinking it, like activate, add mana, blink it. Now I can do add mana again, blink it, draw 3 cards, and then out of the 3 cards I blink it again, and now I add mana, and then I play some, it goes off. I highlighted Eldritch Evolution and Worldly Tutor because I really want to lean into this combo, so we have other ways to make sure we find this kitten. And then we have all these cheap spells that can, even with no mana, can trigger the kitten and turn blink the loot and go off. I think this screams combo for me. So I'm gonna need someone way smarter than me to make this combo deck, and then I'm gonna take the deck list. I'm kidding. I'll probably try to build it myself and fail miserably and probably never record this video. Nah, I'll do the loot week. I promise you guys, we'll have a week where I'm gonna post all loot decks, and I'm gonna have a week where I'm gonna post all the Kellon decks. This will come not very soon, but eventually. Next, we have Mimoplasm, the Revid one. 0/0 for Sultai and X. When he enters, exile up to X creature cards from a graveyard. He enters with 3+1/+1 counters and need for each creature card exile this way. And then you can pay 2 mana to make Mimoplasm become a copy of a target creature, exiled with it, but be a 0/0. So what are we doing? Well, we're milling. We need to have a bunch of creatures in our graveyard, but we also want the creatures in our graveyard be good enough where I'm actually interested in copying it. It's worth noting it doesn't copy the power, so we don't want to like, oh, I milled a 10/10, now I'm gonna make Mimoplasm a 10/10. No, you're not. You're gonna have plus X plus, you're gonna have 3 counters for each creature, so maybe if you exile 2, it's gonna be a 6/6 instead of 10/10, which is still fine, but it's not as good. So we're interested in like powerful static abilities, powerful attack abilities, not powerful ETB abilities, because that's not gonna work. So like Overlord works for the milling, same with the Lumberer. Overlord works because it's a powerful attack ability. Lumberer being exiled has the power. Oh, it doesn't work. The power doesn't work. Never mind. I thought it would work, but it doesn't work. And now I'm rethinking about it. But it works it works for milling and reuses the cards we're not gonna use with Mimoplasm. Mimoplasm only cares about exiling creatures. So again, we don't want the lands to go to waste, so we use the Lumberer to get them back into play, so then we can play a bigger Mimoplasm later on. Valgavoth and Muldrotha are 2 very powerful cards to make Mimoplasm a copy of. Muldrotha will let us play the extra cards in a graveyard, whilst Valgavoth will make killing the Mimoplasm very, very difficult, because it's going to give it the War, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents ability. We are self-milling a lot, so Reanimate is going to be able to bring back a creature. Then Titan's Nest is a card that I completely forgot about that existed. So beginning of your upkeep, you look at the top card and you can put it into your graveyard, and then you can exile a card from your graveyard to add a mana. Hey, I add a mana. Spend this mana to cast a colored spell with X in its mana cost. This is literally just so perfect with Mimoplasm. All the non-creatures that otherwise I wouldn't use, I get to exile with Titan's Nest, add a bunch of extra mana. Now I can make the Mimoplasm, I can pay it for so much, and exile all those creatures and just play like a 20, it needs to be multiple 3, a 27/27 for example. And just from using the Titan's Nest ability. And then you can also have Villainous Wealth in your deck, because I love Villainous Wealth. Lastly, Doubling Season, Ozilith. These may seem weird because we're now running a +1/+1 counter sub theme, but they work really well with the Mimoplasm, so working with your commander is good enough. Doubling Season, if you play Mimoplasm exiling 3 creatures, that would be a 9/9, with Doubling Season is an 18/18. Ozilith, if Mimoplasm dies, you put all those counters on the Ozilith. Since the Mimoplasm is getting so many counters every time it's in play, 3 counters per creature exile, so yeah, cool, you killed my Mimoplasm, I got 6 counters on the Ozilith, I play it again. Now put those 6 extra counters on the Mimoplasm. Now it's freaking huge again. So yeah, I think those 2 are extremely powerful, the Mimoplasm. I'm interested about this deck as well. There's a lot of interesting commanders this time around. I'm still a bit overwhelmed by the amount of legendary creatures they're printing per set. I was hoping they would go down a bit, because this one had 26, 30, 32, I want to say. 32 or 33, which is a lot. It's a bit overwhelming. But at least a bunch of them are interesting enough and different and powerful, so we will take that. And then lastly, we have the weirdest one as a card itself, not in the deck itself. It's the Aetherdrift. It's a legendary artifact planeswalker equipment. So we have a planeswalker equipment now. As long as it's attached to a creature, it can't be attacked, and has whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player. Deals combat damage, not to a player. I missed that part. During your turn, put that many loyalty counters on the Aetherdrift. So imagine you equip this, because the +1 lets you equip it and put a counter on a creature, and you attack with a creature for, I don't know, like a... Let's say we have the Heralds. We put a counter, now it's a 3/3, attack for 3. It's already it has already 8 loyalty. The -5 drawing 2 is nice. It's a little bit of card advantage, which sometimes can be hard if you're colors deck. And at 10 mana, I mean, lets you play big Eldrazi's. And I don't think it's that hard to get to a -10, especially because it's hard to attack the Aetherdrift. A bit sucks that it's an artifact, so it can die to a lot of stuff that usually your planeswalkers wouldn't die to. But that's fine. So we're kind of running like a mix of a aggressive deck with some big stuff, so we can make use of the -10, because I don't think it's that hard to get to. Maybe in practice it'll be harder than I have it in theory. The Overseer is going to make all your effects bigger. The Heralds is going to make all your colorless creatures, which are artifacts, most of them will be also bigger. Also make your big Eldrazi cheaper. We have some big Eldrazi that we can use. And then I was kind of interested as well, put a +1/+1 counter on the creatures. We have like Hanger Backwalker, and then this new guy, the Market Backwalker. Basically, when it dies, you draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it. Just getting a bunch of extra counters on it just worked really, really well for the Aetherdrift. With the +1, because you're going to get extra counters, and then eventually dies, you're just going to get a bunch of tokens or draw a bunch of cards. I also highlighted Ornithopter and Gingerbread because make sure we can push the damage, so we can make sure we can put the Aetherdrift into a creature that actually will be able to attack, because the damage needs to be done during your turn. Because sure, yeah, I can keep the creature back and block the opponent's creature, but then I'm not getting any counters on the Aetherdrift. I'm not getting any loyalty counters on it. So we have these either unblockable flying creatures that they're good enough, I guess, with like Steel Overseer, the Heralds, anything that pumps our artifact creatures. They're already good enough in that sense to have, especially if we're a bit more aggressive. But being able to make sure it gets through and the Aetherdrift gets closer to 10 seems really powerful, at least the -5, so we can be drawing a bunch of cards. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm never too interested in colors commanders, because the card pool is so much smaller, like extremely tiny, and it's not very versatile because we miss out on sorceries and instants, especially, and enchantments, I guess. So the card pool is just so shrunk down. It's just so but I think just because it's different enough, being an artifact planeswalker and being an equipment planeswalker, I think I'll be keen on it. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the preview. Do let me know which ones you would like to see first, which ones you're looking forward to building. And I don't have anything ends. There's no ends. There's no endies here. There's no endies. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe. We're close to 100 subscribers. Actually on 99 now, so that's exciting. Other than that, I'll see you guys Monday and Friday for Brawl, Wednesday for Midweek Magic. And until then, adios.